Good morning. We're talking about the Idaho4 again today. Start by explaining here. This is an ice pack wrapped in a towel. I have neck issues that are messing with my shoulder. I'm actually having 3 discs removed the end of August to help with that. But in my videos, you'll often see a towel here or a heating pad or something. Anyway, there was a 2-part documentary just released, and it was on Prime. I watched it on Prime. I'm a little confused because I've seen a couple advertisements for a documentary that's supposed to come out the end of July, like the 30th, 31st. And of course, we still have a few more days left for an end of the month. The previews of that documentary have Chief Dahlinger in it, and he looks a little sun-touched in the same shirt in the preview as he does in the 2-part documentary that's currently on Prime. But we also heard from a reporter. There's an article out, and I don't remember exactly which, whether it's a magazine or a news channel or what, but it's some kind of media, of a woman who did an interview for a book, and she spoke to a federal agent that had something to do with this case. And she said that she was withholding a little bit of information for her book, but I thought she said something about the documentary coming up and that there would be some new information in that also. Whether she had something to do with the documentary or not, I'm just a little confused about the whole thing. Regardless, I watched the 2-part little series they had, and I will be looking for another documentary to happen the end of this month, end of July. There's a lot to talk about. I'm not going to go into everything. They didn't make any major mistakes. A couple little things. They left out a lot. The mistakes they made weren't anything that really changed the course of the whole narrative from the prosecution. It didn't change the whole timeline. It didn't change the fact that Kohberger's guilty. And I didn't see any new information. So, whenever they have documentaries, or 2020 or Dateline does a show, there's always little nuances in there that are off, especially to those of us who have been with this case forever and know every single solitary everything. We will definitely perk up and notice whenever something's wrong, even the slightest thing. What bugs the heck out of me, and I have to preface this with, as I've stated in a couple of my other videos, I had Lyme's disease that got in my brain, and it affected everything. My memory, my speech, my ability to find words, pronunciation, retention. I always had a tad bit of OCD, and never was to the extreme of constant hand washing or having to go in and out of a door or like 10 times or something like that. which people who have OCD to an extreme have. Because my goodness, I can't imagine that. Those people suffer. And we say we have OCD when we're just very, very particular about things. But my biggest thing is counting. I count things. Just an example, a little while ago, I had the skinning tool for vegetables, takes the peeler. I had a peeler and I was doing cucumbers, and every cucumber, my brain automatically counts how many times I have to peel it. Or if I'm shaving my legs, it's, every time I pull the razor up, I count it. What's weird about that, though, is if I'm actually purposely counting something like money, I have a heck of a time. I have to recount things and lose myself in the numbers, and I have to wash my hands a lot. If I touch anything that leaves any kind of feeling on my hands, or I touch anything that could possibly be dirty, I have to wash my hands. But it's not something I do if those things haven't happened. So, anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is because in my videos, whenever I read something I have trouble reading, pronunciation is a very big problem. I know how to pronounce it, but getting it to actually form correctly and articulate it correctly is a big problem. And finding the words, that's hard. I know what I mean, but I can't find the word to use, and you will hear me say the same word, the same adjective to describe things a lot. Like, I call this crime horrific. To me, that's the word that sticks in my brain. We have some other creators who use different words for what happened. One calls it the atrocity, and I think y'all know who I'm talking about. I can't think off the top of my head, but a lot of people have different views. And I mean, there's or different words, and there's a lot of adjectives you could use to describe this crime. It was awful. It was a slaughter of these innocent kids. Innocent kids who just had no idea and woke up to the boogeyman. They woke up to our worst nightmares. Can you imagine sleeping, because we know a couple were, for sure, sleeping and opening your eyes to see that, and to have that happening to you, or watch it happening to somebody else right next to you? I pray that they did not have time to even process what was happening. That either it happened too fast, or they were so involved in trying to defend themselves that it just didn't even register what was happening. And I pray their pain receptors shut off, or their brains just couldn't process the pain. And poor Xana. We don't know exactly what happened. Nobody does. We can speculate all day. But we do know, I think we can use our common sense and just know that it shocked her. She saw him. She walked up on him at some point. Be it upstairs, if she was the one that went upstairs and she's the one that said someone's here, or whether she was in the kitchen with her food and he came down the stairs. He didn't know she was there and saw her, or she was coming out of her bedroom as he was coming down the stairs, or as he was walking out the door and he saw her and chased her. In my brain and in my theory of what happened, because we all have our theories of what happened. In my theory, she is in the kitchen and she's got her earbuds in because she was on the internet scrolling TikTok and commenting and whatnot. And there is a green earbud under the kitchen counter over in the area where she had her food, like under the microwave, kind of down that under in that area. And there's also one in her room in the crime scene photos. Now, she could have just lost one. It could be from some other time, but I can see her listening to her earbuds and scrolling social media to not wake Ethan or cause a lot of noise, and something happening in the kitchen. I won't go into more detail about that right now because at some point I do want to lay out to you guys what I think happened. But anyway, okay, get back to why I am explaining about what happened to my brain is because, and to correlate that with what I originally wanted to make this video about, is I want to make this video to acknowledge a couple of the members of law enforcement that worked on this case. There were so many, okay? 30 or more that were dedicated daily to this. And of course, gosh knows how many more were involved at the different agencies and the labs and the medical examiner's office and all those places. But from what the chief of Pullman, who was at the time chief of Pullman Police, what he said was that approximately 30 officers were in their conference room, when he was told the Coburger name. So I take that as meaning there was 30 officers between the group, all the law enforcement agencies, that were dedicated to daily work on this. And then of course we had the extras. But whenever we see interviews or in-person interviews, read articles, see the Q&As with law enforcement that happened, especially right after the plea and the sentencing. Two officers stand out to me, and this is not saying they did more than anybody else, because Detective Payne was actually the lead detective on this. I believe he probably just did a lot of the gathering of paperwork and being at the top of the web, just kind of keeping things straight a little bit, but not saying anything negative about anybody else. But there are two officers that stick out to me, and that's Idaho State Police Lieutenant Gilbertson, and who is now Chief of Moscow Police, and that's Dahlinger. Those two I really want to take a second to acknowledge. Here I go again, not being able to keep my thoughts straight. What bugs me about these interviews, and bugs me about even some of these law enforcement officers, neither Gilbertson or Dahlinger have done this, but like Jacobson is on this. FBI agent Jacobson is on that 2-part series that I just watched. Media who have been with this case since the beginning, I give the judges grace on this. I give Judge John Judge and Judge Hippler grace on this, because they were in a very difficult position, and especially John Judge had not worked a lot with this case at the point this happened, and had probably not had to speak the words himself very much yet. And Hippler was just there, there was millions probably of eyes on him, and nerves do play a part in this. But as far as me and my brain issues, and I have trouble pronunciating the victims' names sometimes, and that bugs me, and that hurts my heart, because it sounds like I'm disrespecting the victims, and I don't mean to. I can do their first names, but when I put it all together, sometimes I get a little messed up. But when it comes on these documentaries, and especially ones that were close to the case, like Jacobson, when they pronounce these victims wrong, pronounce the names wrong, it makes me crazy. I think we can all agree that it's Xana, not Xana. And that's what Jacobson calls her. I'm pretty sure that we've heard Xana's mom and dad both say her name, and that's how they pronounce it. Her sister does. I know that. That's a soapbox issue for me, but I wanted to end each one of these videos with this video I want to dedicate to the memory of the victims, but I tried it a couple times and the names don't come out right, and it feels disrespectful, so I'm probably not going to do that, because I want to say their whole names. I'm going to try it now to see, and you may understand what I'm saying. Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, that's not right either, and Madison Mogen. Madison seems to be the only one I can get out correctly. So, I should just stick with Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, and just say that. But I like to give their whole name, because there's a lot of Madisons, there's a lot of Kayleys, there's a lot of Ethans, not many Xanas, but I want people to know who these kids are. Okay? Anyway, let's get back to Gilbertson and Dahlinger. So, Dahlinger. he began this case when the murders first happened. He was other than his regular duties as a law enforcement officer, he handled a lot of the public stuff, talking to the public and activities with the public and all of that. He seems very stoic. You don't even see him crack a smile in these videos or interviews. And yes, this is a very serious case. There's no reason to laugh. But there have been times when somebody has said something that there could be a smile and maybe a little giggle. He never breaks. Never breaks. Very serious man. But when he's talking about these kids and the scene, the fact that he will never get that picture out of his head, how his fellow officers still struggle with what they saw that day. When you have somebody who looks stoic, professional, no nonsense, when they talk about something like that, you see a little bit of change in the way they look or the way they talk. And you can tell how bad it hurts and how much it affected them. And he spits out the facts and reiterates all the time that law enforcement does not want to speculate when it comes to this case. They refuse to speculate. They will relay the facts, and that is it. Evidence that they can prove. They will not talk about anything else. They will not say he did anything else besides what they can prove. And little jut off here. That's why law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, they will not say that Kohberger stalked the kids. First reason, very, very first reason, is because there is a law in Idaho. Stalking means that the victim is aware that that person is following them. They are showing up at their home, place of business. They're sending stuff through the mail. They're calling them. They're harassing them on the internet. So the victim has to be aware that that person is stalking them. Okay? In this case, there are two things. First and foremost, because he scrubbed his devices very well up until a couple weeks before he was arrested, everything's gone. If he was stalking them, if he was searching them, it's gone. We have no way to tell. Okay? He had deleted most of his photos. He had taken photos of the house, all that. We do have a few photos that the cell phone experts, a company called Celebrate, it's a husband and wife team. They've done some interviews. We don't have their docs yet from court, but we have seen them on interviews. They were able to pull a couple pictures of young people around that town, and some of them are friends with, I believe, both Kaylee and Madison. So there's probably a tie in there somewhere. In my theory, without going into the whole thing, he did spot them at the Mad Greek where Madison and Xana worked. He's probably spotted them there, and I would think most likely decided they were going to be, maybe not those two girls specifically, but that house was going to be his target after maybe following them home or within scoping out the girls he took pictures of. I think that's how those victims were chosen. But when Gilbertson talks about all of this, my biggest point is the speculation. They won't speculate. They won't say he stalked them, because that is not, according to Idaho law, the definition of stalking. And that's why Bill Thompson made a big deal over it in court. They can't prove that anybody in that house knew that they were, that he was around the area and things of that sort. Kaylee had reported and told several friends about seeing a black figure in that little wooded area behind her house. Felt somebody watching her. But part of that law is that she has to know who it is. Maybe not their name, but a description. And so we can't say she was being stalked because of these stories, because we don't know who it was for sure. What we can say outside of court is that Kaylee specifically knew something was up. And that Koberger's phone had pinged within 300 yards of that house. They can narrow it down to that. Within 300 yards of the house on 20-some occasions. How come every time I pick up this phone to do a video, a fly decides to harass me? Anyway, okay, so Gilbertson, I just want to acknowledge him. Good cop. No nonsense cop. But he's got a heart in there. You can tell. I think he's very good to speak to the media. He doesn't go off on tangents and say the wrong things, spit out information and then take it back, like the police chief in Tucson that's working with the Nancy Grace case. Nancy Grace. Whoops. Didn't mean that. With the Nancy Guthrie case. He's nothing like that. The complete opposite, actually. And then the other one is Idaho State Police Lieutenant Gilbertson. You see him and Dahlinger do a lot of interviews together. And he has the best personality. He is perfect to speak to the public. He shows the emotion on his face. He answers the questions about these murders the best he can without speculating again, because they all refuse to speculate. And there's something warm about his personality. Comforting. I hope that the kids and the families and the friends and all of them had a chance to interact with him through this investigation, because I believe being comfortable when you're in the midst of such a horrendous murder investigation, time in your life, just trauma in general, the personality of someone like Lieutenant Gilbertson is the type of person you want around. I'm not saying anything negative about the Detective Payne, but if you compare him to Detective Payne and the way he's very stern sounding and sounds very military and all that, he's not exactly the most comforting type person to be around. Doesn't really make you feel very relaxed. But Gilbertson is definitely the one for that. Now, like I said, there are many, many, many others involved in this. Those two just stick out to me, and I wanted to take a couple minutes to acknowledge them. There is a really, really good interview that Gilbertson and Dahlinger do with, her name is Jean, and I believe it is Fox, could be CNN, one of them. I want to say it's Fox, because when you go to watch the interview now, you have to subscribe to Fox News to watch it. But then I've also seen it show up in clips on CNN's Instagram. So anyway, I suggest that you go back and find that video. Hopefully you can find it and not have to pay the subscription. But her name is Jean. She looks to be maybe late 50s. She has dark brown hair. She asks some very good questions. Those two answer the best they can. Gilbertson talks a lot about the marks on Kaylee's face, that they don't know what weapon caused those. Personally, I feel it's some kind of glove. But I have ifs or ands or buts about that also, because if it was some kind of tactical glove, I would think that they would be able to find that glove, that they would be able to match the bruises to a type of glove. And they say they're horizontal and parallel. Yeah, I can see that, this part of the knuckle coming across as parallel. But if you're punching in the midst of murdering somebody and beating the shit out of them like you did that poor girl, I would think his hand would slip on her face and the fingers would kind of come apart and the lines wouldn't be exactly parallel, and like when he would hit, his hand would maybe slide off, or more importantly, the gloves would catch on her skin and rip it some. So I don't think that's what it is, unless they were straight down punches where his fingers didn't come apart and whatever. I'm talking about the padding that's on tactical gloves. Woo! The padding that's on tactical gloves, leaving horizontal marks, kind of like this. I don't know. There's a bunch of ifs about that. It really sounds more like a stationary object, like a fixed object that he hit her with. I don't know. They don't know. If they don't know, then we don't know. They probably have an idea, but if they can't prove it, they are not going to tell us. And I've also seen some people point out Madison had a hair straightener on her desk. It's pink, and I believe the way it works is it's because it doesn't have bristles, but you slide it down your hair as it's straightening and drying, and your hair goes through these slits. But that was in her room. In this interview I'm talking about, Gilbertson says that they tested everything in the room that they could think of to see if that made the marks. And there it was, sitting right there. And if we as lay people think, oh, well, it was this. Now, you know damn well they tested it, because these people know what they're doing. Okay? So, yeah. Those two officers are the ones to be on TV to talk about this stuff. Thompson needs to just go ahead and retire, because there are so many feelings about him and the way this case was handled that he doesn't need to be talking to anybody anymore. He needs to go to sit on the mountain with Judge and look across the fields and down the mountains and go fishing and all that, and just forget this case even existed. But he can't, because him and Ann Taylor still have to go to court every time documents are getting released, because they have to decide if they're going to release them, and what, if anything other than normal standard things, needs to be redacted. That's what's taking so long in us getting these documents. Ann Taylor is still technically defending Bryan Kohberger, and will be until all these documents are released. There are still documents and information that she doesn't want released, whether it violates his rights, whether they are somehow or another working on a loophole appeal of some type. I think he's got, don't quote me on this, but I think he has maybe to the end of this month to file for ineffective counsel. I think that might be one of the very few loophole appeals he can have, because his plea deal was for life in prison. Which columns? He got 4 life in prison without parole, and then the burglary, and that was part of the plea deal. No appeals, but there's always little loopholes somewhere, and that's apparently what this is. But anyway, they're working backwards in the documents, and he pled guilty in July of 2025, and this goes all the way back to November 13th of 22. It's an awful lot of documents. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents, videos, everything. They have to look at every single one, and from what I understand, the court puts out a notice to both sides, says, okay, we're going through document whatever to whatever. you need to look over these. Let me know if there's anything that you want redacted further than the standard names that aren't included in the case, minors, dates of birth, social security numbers, some addresses, phone numbers, things of that sort. Ask them if they want anything else redacted. He decides if that's the case, if they can redact that. Does the release of that violate Kohberger's rights? Make me sick. Should have lost all his rights when he went to prison, when he admitted to doing all this. The only rights he should get at this point, as far as I'm concerned, have to do with prison. His right to 3 meals a day, a place to lay his head, and clean clothes. It may be medical attention to the bare minimum. To me, that's the only rights he deserves. But you know how it goes. They don't care about the rights of the victims. We already know that. Even the poor families can't protect the rights of their children. It's so sad. Anyway, okay. This video has gone much, much longer than I thought. And it is a babbling video. So I apologize for that. I'm tired. I've got to go to work here in a little while. So I will check in with you later. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to touch on with these Sirey videos further than what I already have. There's just so much. I could spend 2-3 hours going over with my review of these lives that these creators have done when they reviewed the interview Sirey did with the custody queens. It's ridiculous, the things that they're saying and the things they're bringing up. It's just, to those of us with a little bit of brain in our head, we know. But man, those checks get big when you start being a Kohberger or a pro-burger and start bringing up all this crap and corruption and conspiracy theories and this, that, and the other. Those social media checks get awful big. Yeah, I hate it. Makes me sick. Alright, guys. Enough of that. I'm going to let you go. It's Friday. Hope you have a good weekend. I'll probably see you Monday if I don't post a couple shorts in between. Thanks for listening to me babble. See? I can't speak correctly. Thanks for listening to me babble. You guys have a good weekend. Bye.